Before we crack open tonight's cursed can of content, I just want to say a big thank you to all our subscribers, and an extra sinister shout out to the loyal members of the Sinister Elite. You legends help keep the darkness alive. If you're enjoying the stories and want to take it a step further, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and consider joining the Sinister Elite by clicking that join button below. Members get access to creepy custom emojis and exclusive Sinister Elite badges that level up the longer you survive with us. It's like loyalty, but spookier. All right, lights off, headphones in, and let's summon something we'll all regret. I didn't mean to end up bartending at a dive bar that caters to time travelers. Honestly, I just needed a job. My last gig was tending bar at a Buffalo Wild Wings that shut down after someone set the fryer on fire during March Madness. Not me, for the record. Pretty sure it was a drunk guy named Kyle who thought deep-fried beer was a thing. Anyway, unemployment wasn't paying the bills, and then this weird Craigslist ad popped up. Help wanted, night shift bartender, flexible hours, must follow the rules. It was the rules part that should have tipped me off, but rent was due and my fridge only had ketchup packets left, so I said screw it. The bar was in the middle of nowhere, halfway down a county road that dead-ended into a cornfield. The neon sign outside said Eddie's, but half the letters were burned out so it just glowed Ed Wise. The building looked older than my grandma's liver spots. Inside, though, it was spotless. Polished bar top, shelves lined with bottles I'd never heard of, some shaped like skulls, some with labels in languages I didn't recognize. A jukebox in the corner flickered between old rock, jazz, and what I swear was future techno with too many bass drops. Behind the counter, taped to the beer fridge, was a sheet of yellowed paper with 10 lines typed out in faded ink. At the top it said, "Rules of service. Read before pouring. Never serve a drink before the clock strikes midnight. Always pour in the exact order written on the slip, no substitutions. If a patron asks for water, serve whiskey. If they ask for whiskey, serve water. Do not drink anything you pour. Ever. If someone orders before you open, ignore them. They don't belong yet." There were more, but I'll save those nightmares for later. At 11:59 p.m., I figured the place was dead. Not a soul around. I was about to pour myself a soda when the front door creaked open. In walked a man wearing a dusty three-piece suit, pocket watch glinting in his vest. He looked like he'd just stepped out of a Civil War reenactment. He walked up, tipped his hat, and said, "A glass of brandy." "Good, sir." I glanced at the rules. Midnight ticked on the clock. Rule number 1 said not before. I held my breath. The second hand landed exactly on 12. The clock chimed. "Coming right up," I said. I reached for the bottle, but before I poured, I noticed something. There was a little slip of paper sitting on the counter. I hadn't put it there. It was written in old typewriter font. Pour 1 brandy, then 1 gin, then 1 beer. I shrugged. The rules said follow the slip exactly. So I lined up 3 glasses and poured. The guy smiled, downed the brandy in 1 gulp, then shoved the gin and beer into his coat pockets like he was hoarding them. Without another word, he left. Weirdest tip I ever got. He left me a silver coin stamped 1886. 5 minutes later, the door swung again. This time it was a woman in a leather jacket, neon earrings glowing. She looked like she'd just left a nightclub in the 80s. She plopped onto a stool and said, "Vodka cranberry." Double. I checked the counter. Another slip appeared, like it blinked into existence. 2 vodka shots, then lime soda, then bourbon. I followed it, even though she rolled her eyes. "That's not what she started. But then she tasted the bourbon and grinned like it was the best thing she'd ever had. "I needed that," she whispered. Then she disappeared. Like, literally. Her stool spun empty. That was when my stomach dropped. This wasn't just a dive bar. This was some kind of checkpoint, a watering hole for people. Not from here, not from now. And the rules weren't suggestions. They were survival. I leaned on the counter, sweating. The jukebox flipped tracks by itself. Something heavy moved in the shadows of the back booth. The rules list fluttered even though the air was still. I read them again, slower this time. And that's when I noticed the sixth line. 6. Never, under any circumstances, acknowledge the man at the end of the bar. My eyes drifted down the row of empty stools. And that's when I saw him. A man I swore hadn't been there a second ago. Sitting at the very end. Pale skin, dark glasses, perfectly still, like a wax figure. And the second I noticed him, his head turned, straight toward me. I didn't breathe. The man at the end of the bar just sat there, angled toward me. His glasses caught the neon glow like two black mirrors. His suit wasn't old-fashioned, but it wasn't modern either. It was wrong. Too sharp. Too pressed. Rule number 6 screamed in my head. Never acknowledge the man at the end of the bar. So I didn't. I grabbed a rag, pretended to polish glasses, and prayed he'd fade away like the woman from the 80s. The jukebox crackled, switching to some swing music from the 1940s. A few seconds later, the door opened. In came a guy in khaki fatigues, dirt on his boots, and a helmet tucked under his arm. He looked shell-shocked, like he'd walked out of World War II and straight into my bar. He slid onto a stool and whispered, "Whiskey. Please." Rule number 3 flashed in my head. If they ask for whiskey, serve water. My hands shook, but I obeyed. Poured a glass of water, slid it across. He sniffed it like it might explode, then downed it in one gulp. He sighed, shoulders unclenching like I'd just saved him from something worse than bullets. "God bless you, son," he muttered, tossing a ration coupon on the counter. Then, he stood and vanished through the door without opening it. The air in the bar went still again. I risked a glance at the end of the bar. The man in the dark glasses hadn't moved. His glass sat untouched, though I hadn't poured him one. My stomach twisted. If the rules said don't acknowledge him, what happens if I break it? Before I could spiral, the door swung wide. A group of 3 stumbled in. A college kid with a hoodie from the early 2000s. A woman in a futuristic silver bodysuit that shimmered like liquid metal. And an old cowboy, spurs jangling with each step. They all sat together, laughing like they'd known each other forever. The cowboy banged his fist. "Barkeep! Tequila for me and my friends here!" I braced for another slip to appear, but this time 4 slips fluttered onto the counter at once. Each had a different order. Beer, martini, cider. 2 shots of vodka, then nothing. Tequila, lime soda, gin. Do not serve. I froze. Which belonged to which? The hoodie kid smirked. "Don't keep us waiting, man. We don't got all the time in the world." I picked up the slips, scanning. My gut told me not to screw this up. So I handed the do not serve slip back across the counter without pouring a thing. The woman in silver snatched it and snarled, eyes flashing neon blue. Smart boy. She stood, grabbed the cowboy by the arm, and in the blink of an eye, both were gone. The college kid stayed. He leaned forward, grin wide. Guess that makes me next. I matched his slip. Beer, martini, cider. I lined them up. He downed all 3 in seconds, slammed the glasses down, and belched so hard the neon sign flickered. Then he muttered, "See you in 2027, dude," and bolted out the door. I stared at the empty bar. The only sound was swing music scratching on the jukebox. Then I heard it. A tap. Glass on wood. The man at the end of the bar had his hand on the counter now, tapping an empty glass that hadn't been there before. He wanted me to serve him. My pulse hammered. The rules said never acknowledge him. Did pouring count as acknowledgement? Or would ignoring him piss him off even more? Before I could decide, another customer appeared, literally appeared, sitting on a stool like they'd been there the whole time. A middle-aged woman in a business suit, briefcase in her lap, hair slicked back tight. She spoke calmly. "A gin and tonic, please." I looked for a slip. Nothing. "No slip?" I asked. Her eyes narrowed. You shouldn't be able to see me. The lights flickered. The jukebox cut out. She leaned closer. I'm not supposed to be here yet. Then she stood, briefcase still clutched tight, and dissolved into static. My heart almost stopped. When the light steadied, the end of the bar was empty. The man in the dark glasses was gone. But the empty glass he'd left behind remained, and the slip sitting under it read only one thing. Rule number 7. Do not let the glass stay empty. That empty glass haunted me. It sat there on the bar like a loaded gun, waiting. The slip beneath it glared back. Rule number 7. Do not let the glass stay empty. The thing is, it didn't say what to fill it with. Water? Whiskey? Something from one of those bottles with labels I couldn't read? The rules had been crystal clear until now, and suddenly I was guessing. I reached for a bottle of Jack, then froze. Rule number 3. If they ask for water, serve whiskey. If they ask for whiskey, serve water. But this guy hadn't asked for anything. No loophole, no slip. Just silence. I left the glass empty, which was the wrong call, because about 30 seconds later, the lights dimmed to near black. The jukebox screamed static. The bottles rattled on their shelves, one by one sliding toward the edge like invisible hands were pushing them. The air grew heavy, pressing down on me like the roof was caving in. I panicked, grabbed the nearest bottle, didn't even check what it was. Poured. The liquid came out thick, glowing faintly red, like cough syrup mixed with neon. The second it hit the glass, everything stopped. Lights normal. Jukebox calm. Bottles still. Crisis averted. But I noticed something terrifying. The glass wasn't empty anymore, and neither was the stool at the end of the bar. The man in the dark glasses was back, sitting there perfectly still, his face angled toward the glowing drink. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just turned my back, pretending to polish glasses again. That's when I noticed more slips had appeared. Not one or two, dozens. A stack scattered across the bar like someone had shuffled a deck of cards and let them fly. Each one typed with bizarre orders. Serve beer to the man with no face. If a woman brings in a clock, smash it immediately. Never answer the phone after midnight. If someone knows your name, cut them off. I muttered. What the hell did I sign up for? The front door creaked again. A kid walked in, looked maybe 19. Hoodie, jeans, awkward slouch. He slid onto a stool, grinning nervously. Hey, can I get a rum and coke? A slip appeared instantly. Do not serve. I swallowed. Sorry, kitchen's closed. He frowned. But this is a bar. Yeah, well, out of coke. Try again in, 20 years? He laughed like I'd told a bad dad joke, then leaned forward. Come on, my name, just one drink. Every hair on my arms stood up. I hadn't told him my name. Rule from the pile flashed in my head. If someone knows your name, cut them off. I backed away, grabbed a broom, like that was going to help against whatever he was. You need to leave. His grin stretched too wide, teeth sharp in the neon light. His voice dropped an octave. I already have. Then he was gone. Stool empty. No footsteps. Just gone. I was shaking when I looked back at the end of the bar. The glowing red drink was empty. The man in the glasses wasn't there. Only another slip. Rule number 8. Never let a patron walk you home. I didn't even want to think about what that meant. The next hour was chaos. Customers came and went like flickering channels on a TV. A knight in armor clanked in and asked for mead. A woman in a business suit ordered a martini and paid with a credit card that had no numbers. A kid with braces asked for an energy drink and then aged 40 years in the time it took me to pour it. Each order came with a slip. Each slip had to be followed exactly. If I messed up, the bar itself punished me. Lights flickering, walls groaning, gravity itself threatening to fold in. But here's the thing I learned quick. The regulars weren't random. They were stuck. They came from different times, but they always circled back to this bar. Like they couldn't leave until they got the exact drink they were supposed to have. And some of them knew things. The knight, after chugging his mead, leaned across the counter and whispered, "You'll serve me again. Years from now. You'll have a scar then." The businesswoman tipped me a folded napkin. Inside was a date, next week's. The kid who aged 40 years? He pointed at me with shaky hands. "You don't make it to 60. I laughed it off, but my chest went cold. Then, at exactly 3:03 a.m., the jukebox cut out. The door opened slow, and a future version of me walked in. Older, scar on his cheek, same ratty apron. He sat at the bar, stared at me and said, "Pour me a drink. You know the rules." A slip appeared between us. "Do not serve yourself." Staring at an older version of yourself is a real quick way to realize you're not cut out for this job. Future me sat there at the bar, scar across his cheek like the knight had promised, apron stained, looking tired in a way I didn't want to understand. He tapped the counter. "Pour it. You know what I need." The slip between us burned into my vision. "Do not serve yourself." I shoved it back toward him. "Rules say no." Future me smirked. "You think you get a choice? You already poured it." I blinked, looked down. Sure enough, there was a glass in my hand full of amber liquid, halfway across the bar. I hadn't even felt myself move. My brain lagged 3 seconds behind my body. He grabbed the glass, raised it like a toast, and downed it. The second he swallowed, the room snapped like a rubber band. The bar lights stuttered. The shelves rippled like heat waves. The jukebox wailed, playing 3 songs at once. My knees buckled, and I clung to the counter as time itself hiccuped. For a moment, I was everywhere at once. Pouring drinks in the past, serving customers who hadn't arrived yet, standing in the ruins of this bar decades later. A blur of faces, rules, drinks, slips. Then, snap. Everything slammed back into place. The bar looked the same. But the stool where future me had been? Empty. On the counter, another slip waited. Rule number 9. If you serve yourself, you won't remember it. I whispered, "The hell does that mean?" The door opened before I could process. In stumbled a man in a Hawaiian shirt and flip-flops, dripping wet like he'd just climbed out of the ocean. He slapped a wad of soggy bills on the counter and shouted, "Margarita, 1987 Cancun." A slip fluttered in front of me. Blend tequila, lime, salt, then burn the receipt. I followed it, my hands on autopilot. Poured the drink, slid it across. He guzzled half in one go. "Ah, that's the stuff." He dug into his shirt pocket, pulled out a seashell, and left it as a tip. Then he literally evaporated into mist. I added the seashell to my growing pile of bizarre currency. Silver coins, ration coupons, a plastic card stamped valid until 2124. My tip jar looked like a museum gift shop exploded. The jukebox cut tracks again, switching to a deep rumbling voice like someone whispering backwards. That's when I noticed the man in the dark glasses was back. Same stool, same stillness. Only now, the empty glass in front of him had cracked right down the middle. Another slip appeared. Rule number 10. If his glass breaks, you're already too late. I swear my heart stopped. I backed away, muttering, "Nope, nope, not my problem." But the cracks in the glass spread like spiderwebs, glowing red. The air turned heavy, pressing on my chest. The jukebox screeched louder, voices overlapping in different languages and centuries. My vision blurred at the edges, like the room itself was unraveling. I grabbed a bottle, any bottle, poured into the broken glass. The crack sealed. The air lightened. The jukebox clicked to silence. The man in the glasses didn't move. He just sat there, watching me without moving his head. I whispered, "What are you?" His lips twitched the smallest hint of a smile. Then a new slip slid across the counter like it had been waiting all night. "Do not ask questions you don't want answered." I shoved it aside, shaking. Then my phone buzzed. I nearly screamed. I'd forgotten I even had it on me. The screen lit up. Incoming call. Unknown. I remembered one of those slips from earlier. Never answer the phone after midnight. It buzzed again, louder. The neon lights flickered with each vibration. I threw the phone under the counter, tried to focus on anything else. That's when the front door opened one last time, and in walked her. A woman in a black dress, carrying a clock in both hands. The clock ticked wrong backward and forward at the same time. Every tick made my teeth ache. Another slip slapped the counter, smashed the clock immediately. She smiled politely. "Excuse me, could you hold this for me?" The clock's ticking grew louder. My vision blurred. I remembered the slip word for word. But here's the thing. I'd never smashed anything in my life. I wasn't the violent type. I hesitated, just a second too long. The clock's hands spun wild, gears grinding. The bar tilted like a ship in a storm. Every bottle flew off the shelves, shattering. The neon sign exploded in sparks, and every patron I'd served that night, Civil War man, 80s girl, Woitu soldier, knight, future kid, flashed back into the bar all at once. Their faces warped, voices overlapping in a nightmare chorus. The rules hadn't been about them. They'd been about me. And I'd just broken one. The clock exploded. Not in fire and shrapnel, but in time. The glass face shattered into fragments of seconds that froze midair, ticking and talking in place. Gears spun backward, forward, then collapsed into dust. My ears rang with the sound of every grandfather clock I'd ever heard, chiming at once. The woman in black dissolved into static, smiling the whole time like she'd planned this. And then the bar, filled. Every stool, every booth, every dark corner crammed with people from every era I could imagine. Roman soldiers clanked mugs with astronauts in bubble helmets. A cowboy slung an arm over a punk rocker with safety pins in his face. A nurse from the 1920s whispered to a kid in a hoodie that still had the store tag dangling. It was rush hour in hell, and I was the only bartender on duty. Slips of paper rained down like confetti. Hundreds, maybe thousands. They covered the counter, the floor, the bottles. Each one typed with rules. Pour absinthe, then blood, then gin. If the patron bleeds into the glass, serve it back. Never serve more than 3 astronauts at once. If a Roman orders wine, give him Pepsi. I wanted to run. Just drop my apron and sprint out the door. But something invisible held me in place. My hands moved on autopilot, snatching slips, pouring drinks, sliding them down the bar. And it worked. The chaos had rhythm. The knight clanked his mead. Gone. The punk slammed his gin. Gone. The cowboy laughed, whiskey dripping down his chin. Gone. Each satisfied customer blinked out of existence like clockwork. The bar was a checkpoint. That was the only way I could make sense of it. I wasn't serving drinks. I was keeping the flow of time itself moving. And if I screwed up... I thought back to the broken clock, the neon light exploding, the overlap of faces screaming through time. That was what happened when I hesitated, when I didn't follow the rules. The rules weren't about survival. They were about balance. The jukebox flickered, blasting swing, then rap, then static. Bottles crashed. My arms burned as I poured nonstop, glass after glass. Sweat ran down my face. My tip jar overflowed with junk from centuries that hadn't happened yet. And then, everything froze. Like someone hit pause. The patrons hung in mid-sip. Liquid hovered above glasses. Even the jukebox needle hovered above the vinyl. The only thing moving was the man in the dark glasses. He stood now, silent, walking down the bar with slow, deliberate steps. His shoes didn't touch the floor. They glided. His head never bobbed, never swayed. He just drifted closer, closer, until he was in front of me. He reached out, slid a single slip across the counter. No typewriter font this time. This was scrawled in red ink, shaky like someone had written it in their final moments. Final rule: do not serve the last customer. My throat tightened. Last customer? Did that mean the crowd I'd just dealt with was nearly done? Did that mean someone was still coming? The man in the glasses tilted his head. For the first time, he spoke. His voice was every radio station at once, layered, echoing, impossible to pin down. "You are doing well," he said, "but the end is near." The lights flickered back on. The crowd snapped into motion again. More slips hit the counter. My body moved without me, pouring, sliding, obeying. Customers flashed in and out, satisfied. The herd thinned. The bar emptied. And then, silence. One stool left occupied. Future me. Back again. Scar deeper this time, eyes darker, smile gone. He leaned forward on the counter. "You know what to do." A slip fluttered down in front of me. Typed, clean, no red ink. Pour 1 drink. Whiskey. But the final rule still echoed in my skull. Do not serve the last customer. I stared at the bottle. My hands shook. Sweat ran into my eyes. If I served him, I broke the final rule. If I didn't, I broke the slip. The bar groaned around me. Glasses rattled. The jukebox whined. Time itself waited for me to screw up. Future me smirked. "You already know how this ends. You've seen it." I swallowed. "I don't want to." The neon sign outside buzzed louder, glowing brighter than ever. The walls pulsed like a heartbeat. I realized something then. The rules weren't about me surviving. The rules weren't even about the bar surviving. The rules were about keeping him out, the man in the dark glasses. And if this was the last customer, then maybe future me wasn't a customer at all. Maybe he was the invitation. Future me sat there, eyes locked on mine, scarred, older, worn down. The slip in front of me glared like a death sentence. Pour 1 drink. Whiskey. But the final rule burned in my brain. Do not serve the last customer. The bar itself was trembling, lights buzzing like angry hornets. Bottles rattled off shelves, rolling across the floor. The jukebox screamed white noise. "Go on," future me said. His voice wasn't mine. It was deeper, colder. "You already know you're going to do it. That's why I'm here." I gripped the bottle of Jack, knuckles white. My instincts screamed both ways at once. Serve him, the rules collapse. Don't serve him, the slips collapse. Future me leaned in close. "You know the truth, don't you? About the man at the end of the bar." The neon flickered red. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him. The man in the dark glasses, perched on his stool again, motionless, waiting. His empty glass shimmered like it wanted blood in it. "He's not the danger," future me said softly. "You are." The slip curled at the edges, smoke rising from the paper. I looked back at him. "You're not me." His smile cracked too wide. His face stretched like rubber, scar splitting into a grin that reached ear to ear. His eyes glowed a dull, radioactive green. The slip burst into flames. He slammed his hand on the counter. "Serve me!" The whole bar buckled, floorboards warping under my feet. The patrons I'd served all night flickered back in at once. Soldiers, cowboys, punks, knights, screaming in 100 overlapping voices. Time tore open at the seams. And I knew then, serving him would feed whatever was clawing its way through the bar. I grabbed the glass anyway, but not to pour. I smashed it against the counter, shards flying. Future me, or whatever wore his face, roared, a sound like collapsing buildings. His body convulsed, glitching through ages. Child, old man, skeleton, shadow. He lunged across the counter, claws where his hands had been. But before he could reach me, another sound cut through the chaos. A tap. Glass on wood. The man in the dark glasses slid his empty glass toward me. A new slip appeared, written in red like blood. 1 chance. Fill it. Now I didn't hesitate. Grabbed the nearest bottle, glowing liquid, didn't matter. Poured. The man in the glasses raised the glass, drained it, and set it back down with a quiet clink. And just like that, everything froze. Future me stopped mid-lunge, glitching body locked in place. The bar silenced. Patrons vanished. The jukebox needle froze. Even the neon outside held still, mid-flicker. The man in the glasses stood. For the first time, he spoke. "You followed enough rules," he said, voice smooth and endless. "That is sufficient." He reached out, touched the warp thing wearing my face. It shrieked and imploded, folding into nothing. Gone. Then he turned to me. "You will keep tending this bar," he said. "Time requires it. The rules will change, but they will always hold." I swallowed hard. "And if I don't?" His glasses tilted, catching the neon light. "Then you become the last customer." He set the empty glass back on the bar, perfectly clean now, and walked toward the door. He didn't open it, he just phased through. And everything snapped back. The bar was normal again, shelves stocked, floorboards steady, neon humming faintly. The slips were gone, except one, taped to the fridge in fresh ink. New rule number 1, never forget who you almost served. I collapsed against the counter, hands shaking. My tip jar overflowed with impossible junk from across centuries, but I didn't care. My head spun with one thought. I wasn't just a bartender. I was the damn cork in the bottle holding time together. And one day when I screw up, I'll be the last customer.